for your initial appearance and arraignment on charges stemming out of the Green Valley Justice Court. Just to remind you, sir, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You've been charged with several offenses in the Green Valley Justice Court related to disorderly conduct, interfering with the judicial proceeding. I'm going to enter a pleas of not guilty for you and set a hearing for you on April the 3rd at 8:30 in the morning at the Green Valley Justice Court, and you'll receive paperwork eventually with all these details, sir. But I'm going to set a hearing for you on the 3rd of April, 8:30 in the morning. Just want to inform you that you do have the right to not only remain silent, but you have a right to an attorney that you can hire at your own expense, or one may be appointed if appropriate, and that'll be handled by the court on the 3rd. You do have a right to be present for all future proceedings, including to attend a trial if you so choose. If you fail to appear at any future proceedings, including a trial, it could be held without you present, and you could be found guilty in absentia. If you're found guilty in absentia and you are not able to be sentenced within 90 days due to your own absence, you may waive the right to an appeal. And I'm going to otherwise release you on your own recognizance, provided that you can promise me you'll be present for your hearing on the 3rd. Can you do that for me, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. As a condition of your release, I'm going to order standard conditions to apply, to include not having any contact with the alleged victim in this case, including going to their place of work or residence. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're going to be released. Good luck to you. I hope you are able to make it to your hearing on the 3rd. If you cannot, please make sure and contact the court immediately to report any issues so that another warrant does not issue for your arrest. And that's it. Thank you very much, officer. We're done with Mr. Scott for the evening.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Your Honor. Bye.
Bye. Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Terrell Lamar Johnson.
I'm sorry, what was your middle name?
Terrell Lamar Johnson.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Johnson, I have you here. Okay. I have you here out on a warrant out of Pima County on drug possession of dangerous drug, possession of drug paraphernalia. Offenses. The warrant was issued on the 24th. I've read the pretrial services report in this case. I'm sorry, I forgot to confirm. Do we have the county attorney's office on the line?
Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor. Good evening, Brad Harris from the county attorney's office.
Good evening. All right. Again, sir, Mr. Johnson, I have read the pretrial services report in this case. Just getting to some additional information about you. State have a position on conditions of release.
Your Honor, due to it being an out-of-county warrant, that we do not take a position.
Defense?
Your Honor, he's being held in custody here on other charges. I would just note that he was assessed at a level 2, so non-violent event. He's 30, a lifelong resident. I think that in these situations we just had a review hearing, I defer to the court.
So, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to impose the bond amount of $5,000 as requested in the warrant. We will notify Pinal County that you're being held down here on other charges, and I'm going to set a review hearing for you on the 25th of April at 9 a.m.
It's not a probation violation.
All I have is for you, sir, the warrant is issued out of Pinal County on the 24th of March. So for that reason, I'm just gonna impose the bond amount that's requested in the warrant. I'm gonna set a review hearing for you on the 25th, but we will let Pinal County know that they can come, and if they want to transport you, they can. Otherwise, the hearing on the 25th is just in case you're still in custody on this matter in particular. That way you're not slipping through the cracks. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's all I have for you, sir. Thank you. Oh, Rick.
Your Honor, good evening. This is Efthymios Katsarelis. I will be entering a notice of appearance for Mr. Felix. He is on the felony calendar.
Understood.
Thank you, Judge.
Well, I think he's a little ways down the way. Can you have them? Oh, sure. I just need Mr. Roach. Yeah. All right. Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
James Rowe?
James Frederick Rote?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Mr. Rowe, you're being seen this evening on charges of aggravated domestic violence alleged to have occurred on the 18th of March, 2025. Remind you, sir, you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. You also do have a right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the Pima County Legal. I'm going to be appointed the Pima County Legal Defender's Office to represent you, and the attorney seated to your left is representing you for purposes of this hearing. If you have any questions or concerns, please address them to your attorney out loud. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. Reviewed the pretrial services workup in your case, get some info. And just received Pima County Attorney's Office recommendation. What's the state's position on conditions of release, just for the record?
Your Honor, the state would recommend a $50,000 bond. The nature of this offense, while not the most serious that we will see tonight, but the state would point to the fact that he has a long domestic violence record, 3 misdemeanor convictions and 2 pending cases, as well as a felony conviction. He also scores as high as possible on the pretrial services workup and has an active NBCA file.
All right, thank you. Spence?
Mr. Rote is 33 and a life resident. I don't believe there's any indication that he wouldn't appear for his court hearings. Given that he is currently homeless and unemployed, the state's bond recommendation is entirely unattainable for Mr. Rote. So for those reasons, given that he is a lifelong resident, we are asking for either trial release or a lower bond in the state's recommendation.
Sure. I'm going to impose a bond of $15,000 cash secured in order that if you are released or are able to post that bond, that you be released to the supervision of pretrial services. Standard conditions of release will apply to include monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. I am going to further order that you have not have any contact with the alleged victim in this case. Do not go to their place of work or residence. And I'm going to set a hearing for you on April the 7th at 1:30 p.m. at the Pima County Justice Court. So you are not going to be released tonight unless you are able to post that bond. If you are able to post that bond, please make sure and touch base, contact your attorney and keep in contact with them and make sure to be present for your hearing on the 7th. Otherwise, the warrant could issue for your arrest. You understand? All right. 15000.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, that's all I have for you. Thank you.
What is?
What is?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm good. Attorney,
Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
Jose Maria Juarez III.
Juarez. It's time set for your initial appearance. I have you here on a warrant issued by Judge Kendrick Wilson on November the 19th, 2024 for failing to appear at a for a case. On this case, sir, I'm going to release you on your own signature, provided that you can promise to be present for a hearing in this case on April the 15th at 1:30. Can you do that for me, sir?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Standards conditions of release are going to apply to include not driving without a valid license, possessing and consuming no alcohol or drugs, having no contact with the alleged victim in this case, and not returning to the incident location. Do you understand all that?
Yes, sir.
All right. You're going to be released. Please make sure and be at your hearing on the 15th or contact the court beforehand if you can't are not going to be able to make that. Do you understand?
Absolutely.
All right. You're excused. All right. Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Yes, it's Jesse Ray Simonson.
All right, Ms. Simonson. It's time set for your initial appearance. I have you here on two charges, or charges stemming out of the Marana City Court for possession of drug paraphernalia and failing to comply with the court order. I'm going to release you on this matter and set a court hearing for you in the Marana City Court on April the 23rd at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Now,
Great.
standard conditions of release to include not driving without a valid license, possessing, consuming any alcohol or illegal drugs, not having any. All right, sir, you're going to be released tonight. Make sure you're at your hearing on the 23rd at 10 a.m. You understand?
Hey, yes, I do.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
You too. Thank you.
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Ashley Joan Garber.
All right, good evening, Ms. Garber. This is the time set for your initial appearance and arraignment. I have you here on two charges involving domestic violence assault and domestic violence disorderly conduct. Did we have any? All right, Ms. Garber. I'm going to release you in this matter and set a hearing for you on April the 23rd at 1:30 in the afternoon in front of Judge Million at the Tucson City Court. You're going to get copies of the paperwork that'll explain all of this, but just understand a few things. One, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be will be held against you. You do have a right to an attorney, though one may not be appointed to you at the court's expense. You may have to retain one if you wish to be represented by counsel. That hearing on the 22nd, you need to be present at that, as well as all future hearings, or a trial could proceed without you being present, and you could be found guilty in absentia. If you're found guilty and cannot be sentenced within 90 days due to your own absence, you may lose the right to an appeal. You understand? I'm going to enter pleas of not guilty on both of the charges against you, and further orders conditions of release that you do not have any contact with the alleged victims in this case. Do not contact the victims or visit their homes or places of work. Do you understand that?
Share with this victim. In order to, how would you like me to go about doing that, Your Honor?
In that sense, what I'm going to order is that you can return once with
Okay.
police escort in order to retrieve your personal belongings. So once you're released, you can contact 311, the non-emergency line, and arrange for a police escort to be present with you at the home to retrieve your personal belongings. Okay? But do not go to the home without the police being present with you. Otherwise, you could be in violation of your conditions of release and you could end up right back in jail. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, that's all I have for you. Again, you're going to be released. Please make sure and be at your hearing on the 22nd of April. Otherwise, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
You're
Thank
excused.
you. Oh, my God. Aguilar?
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Hi, David Aguilar, sir.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Aguilar. This time set for your initial appearance. You're being seen here tonight on a charge of aggravated domestic violence alleged to have occurred on March 25th. Just a reminder, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. You have a right to an attorney, and I'm appointing the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you. The attorney seated to your left is going to be representing you for purposes of this hearing. So if you have any questions or concerns, please address them to your attorney before saying anything out loud. You understand?
Yes, sir.
I reviewed pretrial services workup in your case. What's the state's position on conditions of release for Mr. Aguilar?
Your Honor, the state is recommending a bond of $100,000, given the nature of this offense as well as his criminal history. He has 4 prior convictions. All of them involve domestic violence. He's currently on probation in 3 separate domestic violence cases. And he also has a misdemeanor history of domestic violence as well. So given that lengthy history, the state is recommending a $100,000 bond.
Thank you. The defense.
Your Honor, Mr. Aguilar is 27 years old and he's a lifelong resident. His family fully supports him. They indicated that he might be experiencing some mental health issues. He's also mentally based on the killer that he is in here at the jail. The interim complaint upon reading it indicates to me that there might be mental health issues as well. But I think most importantly, he does have an adult probation hold placed on him. Those are quite difficult to lift. In my experience, we actually cannot lift those, typically until it is all of any huge charges. So for those reasons, Your Honor, given that he was also assessed to level 2, would ask for a low bond.
Thank you. Mr. Aguilar, I'm going to order a bond in this case. So you do have a probation hold, so you're not going to be released in this. You're not going to be released from the jail, period. I'm going to impose a bond of $25,000 cash or secured and order you be released to pretrial services if you are able to post that bond. So again, you're not going to be released, but if you are released, you need to contact pretrial services immediately. Standard conditions of release will apply to include submitting any monitoring or treatment that the pretrial services may direct. More importantly, it's going to include conditions that you not engage in any acts of domestic violence, possess no firearms or weapons, surrender any firearms you may have in your possession to law enforcement, have no contact with the alleged victims, and do not go to their place of work or residence. I'm going to set a preliminary hearing for you on April the 7th at 1:30 in the afternoon at the Pima County Justice Court. And that's all I have for you, Mr. Aguilar. Anything else from the council?
Sorry.
You're excused, sir.
Bill?
Good evening. Please have your full name.
Exactly, Gene, no.
All right, Mr. Belt. You're here tonight on the warrant issued for your arrest by the Sixth Judicial District of Kanab District Courts and Kane County, Utah. This warrant was issued on March 13th by Judge Mandy Larson and of the Kanab District Court. I've reviewed the pretrial services report for Mr. Bell. Does the state have a position on conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor, the state's recommending a $50,000 bond. It appears that he's pending sentencing in this matter. And according to his girlfriend, has only been in Tucson for a week. So given the lack of community ties, the state is recommending a $50,000 bond.
And Mr. Bell, I forgot to mention, again, you do have a right to remain silent. You do have a right to an attorney. And I'm going to appoint the Pima County Legal Defender's Office to represent you in this case. And the attorney seated to your left is going to be representing the hearing. So if you have any questions or concerns, you want to talk to her beforehand, feel free to do so now. Otherwise, does defense have a recommendation on conditions? No problem.
Your Honor, we are asking for a release or a low bond. I know that he's 27. I actually don't believe that he doesn't. It does appear that he was a very address on East Milton Road. His girlfriend stated he was her. They do share a residence and they also share children. So, given that Mr. Bell was assessed at level 2, this is a non-violent battle before the court. We are asking to allow him a chance to resolve the matter. He does have a very short record. If the court is inclined to impose a bond, Mr. Bell is just asking for a lower bond so that he can bond himself out and take care of this issue in Utah.
Just note for the record that the warrant does not include a requested amount. It does note that these offenses do appear to be non-violent and the majority of them are misdemeanor offenses. So I'm going to order a $5,000 cash secured bond. And we'll set a fugitive review hearing for the 31st at 2:30 in the afternoon at the Superior Court. So we will notify the Kanab District Court of this matter, and it'll be up to them to seek extradition of you to Utah or not. But otherwise, that's all I have for you, sir. You are excused.
Yes.
Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
They're gonna be Guillermo Casi Enrique.
All right. Sir, this is the time set for your initial appearance. You're here on a charge of domestic violence, disorderly conduct with a weapon. Just remind you, sir, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can will be held against you. You also have the right to counsel, and I'm appointing the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you. The attorney seated to your left is representing you for purposes of this hearing. So if you have any questions or concerns, please address them to your attorney before saying anything out loud. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Read the pretrial services report for Mr. Cassie, noting a 1 and 1 on the FTA and CA scales respectively. Noted that the alleged victim in this case does not wish to have any contact, does not wish to have Mr. Brown return to the doesn't wish to have any further contact, does not object to the defendant's release from custody. What's the state's position on conditions of release?
Your Honor, the state's recommending a $10,000 bond. The biggest reason the state is requesting that bond is due to the lack of alternate housing away from the victim.
Defense.
One moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, we are asking for pre-trial release. I just spoke with Mr. Cossi. He has a verified residence with his grandmother in Grana on North Bolk, BOLK. I asked him because it appears that he is from Tucson and a lifelong resident. If he had family in town, he told me he does. I would note that according to his complaint, the gun was faked. It was not pointed at the alleged victim. So the court counted he's low on the NCA and FTA scales. No injuries were sustained. There is no objection to his release. And he does have full-time employment. Or he has no offenders, and this is our lowest level felony here in Arizona. Also, from the interim complaint, it noted that he left the residence before there was any further escalation. So it seemed that he was also compliant with law enforcement when he was stopped. So for all those reasons, Your Honor, we are asking for pretrial release.
Thank you. Mr. Cathy, I'm going to release you on pretrial services based on factors I've already outlined. And going to set a hearing for you, preliminary hearing for you on April 15th at 1:30 in the afternoon. Standard conditions of release will apply to include any monitoring services or treatment that is directed by pretrial services. You are not to possess any weapons or firearms, and any firearms you may already have in your possession must be surrendered to law enforcement immediately. You're also not to commit any acts of domestic violence, consume or possess any alcohol or illegal drugs. You are not to have any contact of any kind whatsoever with the alleged victim, to include going to their residence or place of work. Now, since there was a shared residence in this case, I will allow you to return to the victim's home one time with police escort. So when you're released, if you wish to go back and get any kind of personal possessions, you must contact law enforcement first. You can call 311 and arrange for a police escort to the residence for one time to get your personal belongings before leaving. Do not stay at the residence any longer than is necessary, and do not go to that residence without a police escort. Otherwise, you could be in violation of your conditions. You can end up right back in jail with additional charges. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead and address your question to your attorney.
I think we're good.
Okay. Your excuse, sir.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Paul Cunningham.
All right, Mr. Canam, this is time set for your initial appearance. You're here based on a fugitive warrant out of the state of Mississippi that was issued on September 1st, 2023, related to offenses that I guess it stemmed from a sentencing in March of 2016. To remind you, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, and I am going to appoint the Pima County Legal Defender's Office to represent you. The attorney seated to your left is representing you for the purpose of this hearing. If you have any questions or concerns, please address them to your attorney before saying anything else. Understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. There's no pretrial services workup for Mr. Cunningham. State's recommendation for conditions of release.
Your Honor, the state is recommending a no bond hold. This is a post conviction. It's a parole warrant from the demanding state, and they're therefore eligible for a no bond hold under Arizona law.
Depends.
Dispute. Mr.
You may.
Your Honor, I understand the state's position. I've had a chance to speak with Mr. Cunningham. I will just note for the record that it appears that Mr. Cunningham had permission from the parole officer to work out here, that he's been working out here with me for this few years. Information of the last contact with the parole officer is, was it Mr. Parole officer is, so he is, dismayed with this event because it seems like he's had surprise. But again, I just spoken to Mr. Cunningham about the statute that the state has cited and will defer to the court.
That is correct. This instance, I believe a no bond hearing is required. I am going to set that hearing on March 31st at 2:30 in the afternoon at the Superior Court. So, Mr. Cunningham, you're not going to be released, but you will have a chance to speak with an attorney and have this matter heard and explained further. If you do have information that you think is pertinent to this hearing, make sure and share it with your attorney. Otherwise, you'll be transported over your hearing on the 31st at 2:30. That's all it. Rich, you're excused.
Dominguez. Dominguez. Now it's fixed.
Hello.
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Michael Anthony Dominguez.
Mr. Dominguez, I have you here for a few different things. First is, I have you here on felony charges related to aggravated shoplifting and possession of drug paraphernalia alleged to have occurred today. Remind you, sir, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. You have a right to an attorney, and I am going to, sorry, one second. I'm going to appoint the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you. The attorney seated to your left is representing you for purposes of this hearing. If you have any questions or concerns, please address them to your attorney before speaking out loud. You understand? All right. I reviewed the pretrial services workup for Mr. Dominguez. What's the state's position on conditions of release?
Your Honor, the state's okay with pretrial services release.
Defense?
If the court is inclined with the state's recommendation, we have nothing further to.
And I am. I'm going to set a preliminary hearing for you on April the 15th at 1:30 in the afternoon. And I'm going to release you on promises that you can appear at that hearing. Can you promise to appear at that hearing, sir?
Yes, sir.
Standard conditions of release are going to apply to include not driving without a valid license and possessing, no alcohol or illegal drugs. I'm also going to order that you not have any contact with the alleged victim in this case and not to return to the incident location or locations.
Yes.
The next matter I have for you, sir, is a warrant out of Pima County Justice Court related to a charge of shoplifting alleged to have occurred on July 21st. I'm also going to release you on that matter as well, provided that you can promise to appear at a hearing on April 7th at 8:30 in the morning. Can you promise to appear at that, sir?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Thank you. All right. Same conditions of release are going to apply. Do not contact the alleged victim or return to the incident locations in that case. And the last thing I have for you, sir, is a matter out of the Tucson City Court. And this,
Yeah. Sorry.
hang on, sir. I have a
Yes,
chart. This relates to a charge of criminal trespass in the first degree, alleged to have occurred on August 26, 2024.
Yes.
Michael is going to release you on that case. Let's make sure. One second.
Sorry.
All right, it doesn't appear you were arraigned on that, so this also will be your arraignment for that matter. Again, to advise you, sir, you do have a right to remain silent. You do have a right to an attorney. Though one may not be appointed at the court expense, you may nevertheless retain one at your own expense. You have the right to attend all future hearings in this case, to include a hearing that will see for you the 25th at 9 a.m. in front of Judge Maldonado. If you fail to attend that hearing, the case may proceed forward and you may be found guilty at trial in absentia. If you're not able to be sentenced within 90 days because of your failure to appear, you could lose your right to an appeal. You understand that, sir?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to enter a plea of not guilty. Release you on your promise that you can appear at that hearing on the 24th. I'm going to impose standard conditions of release to include no contact with the alleged victim. Do not return to the incident location.
Aye.
And that's it, sir.
Right.
We're going to be
Thanks, sir.
on these matters. Make sure to make all your court hearings and contact your attorney. Thank you.
Later.
What?
All right. Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
Mike Cortez Phoenix.
Mr. Mr. Felix, time set for your initial appearance. You are here on several charges, felony charges relating to trafficking and stolen property, theft by control, conspiracy to commit fraudulent schemes and artifices. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. Do believe, is it Mr. Catarellis? Are you appearing on behalf of Mr. Felix?
I am, Your Honor. I'm under a notice of appearance on behalf of Mr. Felix.
All right. I've reviewed the interim complaint for Mr. Felix as well as the pretrial services workup for him. I'll just note that he was found to be a 1 and 1 on the NCA and FTA scales, and didn't appear to have any significant criminal history. What's the state's position? Oh, and I also note that in the information provided as part of the interim complaint that I believe Saudi, the police department, is requesting a $20,000 bond and provided several reasonings, rationales for that recommendation. What's the state's position on conditions of release?
Your Honor, the state's recommending pretrial services release.
And Ms. Katsoulis?
Thank you, Judge. The first thing I want to mention is that Mr. Felix has a diabetes issue that I think is the most important thing that I'm asking the court to consider. And I would like the court to release him tonight so he can take care of that. But Judge, I think it's evident Mr. Felix is 60 years old. He has zero criminal history. I understand Sahuarita Police Department is doing an investigation. There's a co-defendant. There are a ton of things that are coming as, little details that will play out into the case. But Mr. Felix is not a flight risk. He retained our firm. He is going to address the case. He's going to show up for every court. Just he has family support. He has ties to the community. He's actually the owner of 2 independent businesses with contracts with the city of Sahuarita. They are non-related with the current offense. So I think, Judge, that this is the prime example of the person that the court can allow to be released on pretrial. He's going to be in my office tomorrow morning, Judge, and obviously I saw him tonight earlier at the jail in person. I don't think the court should have any concerns, and I think that I commend the county attorney for recommending pretrial services release. I don't think we will have any issue whatsoever. So I'm asking the court to release him to the supervision of pretrial services.
Mr. Felix, given the nature of the offenses being nonviolent and your pretrial services workup, obviously, and the recommendations of both the county and defense, I am going to release you to pretrial services. Standard conditions of release will apply to include any monitoring or treatment that pretrial services orders or directs for you. You're not doing contact any alleged victims in this case, and do not return to any of the incident locations. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. I'm also going to set a hearing for you on April 15th at 1:30 in the afternoon at the Justice Court. Your attorney also already expects to see you tomorrow. Please make sure and keep in contact with your attorney. Otherwise, a warrant may issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. You're excused.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I be excused?
Sure. Thank you.
Always good seeing you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Good evening. Can I please have your full name?
Adrian Lopez.
All right, Mr. Lopez. This is the time set for your initial appearance. I have you on a couple different matters. I should remind you, sir, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. You have the right to an attorney. And on the felony matters you're here for tonight, possession of dangerous drug, I am going to appoint the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you. The attorney seated to your left is going to be representing you for purposes of this hearing. So if you have any questions or concerns, please direct that to your attorney before you're saying anything out loud. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
I've reviewed the pretrial services workup as well as the interim complaint for Mr. Lopez. I'll just note that he is a 2 and 3 respectively on the NCA FTA scales. And note that he is steps eligible, doesn't have any criminal history. State's recommendation on conditions of release.
Your Honor, the state's recommending pretrial services release.
Thank you. I'm inclined to agree and set a steps hearing, but defense have any want to have any input on that?
I'd just like to speak with Mr. Lopez briefly about the problem.
Yes.
Just got that.
Your Honor, he is open to pretrial release, and once set a steps date, you're willing to waive tonight. A preliminary date.
Mr. Lopez, on the felony count, I am to release you the supervision of pretrial services, which means you're going to be under their care for the next several days or weeks, depending on how long your case takes to resolve itself. I'm going to order standard conditions of release apply, including that you submit to any monitoring or treatment that pretrial services directs. I'm going to set a steps hearing for you to be screened for the program. I'm sure your attorney explained what that program is. But if you have any questions, again, the attorney can explain it to you. Your steps hearing is going to be on April the 2nd at 9 a.m. And I'm also going to set a preliminary hearing for you in case that hearing falls through or you're not accepted into the program. The preliminary hearing will be April 15th at 1:30 in the afternoon. All right. And then the next matter we have for you is a warrant out of what is this issued out of? Sorry, I'm not seeing the agency that ordered it. But you have a warrant for your arrest related to criminal damage. I'm sorry, 2 warrants. One is for criminal damage, and the other is disorderly conduct fighting. both misdemeanors. I'm sorry, the Ajo Justice Court, apologize. I'm gonna quash the warrants in that case. And I'm gonna set a hearing for you on April the 8th at 9 a.m. at the Ajo Justice Court in Ajo. You're gonna receive paperwork with all the information related to this case. Please just make sure and get yourself to Ajo Justice Court on April the 8th at 9 a.m. so that you can resolve that case. Otherwise, a warrant could issue for your arrest. You understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. That's all I have for you, sir. You're excused. Have a nice evening.
Watch out.
Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
DJ Marchand.
All right, Mr. Marchand, this is the time set for your initial appearance. I have you here on 2 charges related to unlawful possession of a narcotic, unlawful possession of narcotic drug, unlawful possession of drug paraphernalia. Reviewed the interim complaint for you and as well as the pretrial services workup. Just note that he was, Mr. Marchand was rated as a 5 and a 3 respectively on the NCA FDA scales. And he does appear to have a single felony offense where a probation violation warrant was issued yesterday. Otherwise, and do note that he is steps eligible. What's the state's recommendation on conditions of release?
Your Honor, we are recommending a steps hearing given the nature of the charges. The state is recommending a bond of $1,000 given the probation violation warrant that the court mentioned.
So do we have?
And defense?
We should speak with Mr. Marchand quickly.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I would note that Mr. Marchand is 46. He doesn't have a very long record. He has indicated to me that he has been diagnosed with cancer and is receiving treatment at TMC. For those reasons, given that he is a level 2, this is not violent, it's personal possession. Requesting pretrial release. Otherwise, low bond is like he certainly can't just the court imposes. Again, for those reasons, we have a state for pretrial release. He is interested in participating in the steps program. One second.
That's okay.
And spent wait time for steps?
Your Honor, it depends on whether or not he's held in custody.
Okay, well, I am inclined to release in pretrial services. I will note that the warrant, although it was issued yesterday, has not been served on the defendant, and I don't see additional reasons again. But just circle back, is the defendant interested in steps, and again, are you willing to waive time?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Marchand, I am inclined to release you to pretrial services and direct that you submit any monitoring and treatment as they direct for you. I'm going to set a steps hearing for you on April the 2nd at 9 a.m. as well as a preliminary hearing for you just in case that hearing falls through for April 15th at 1:30 in the afternoon. And I apologize if I didn't mention this before, but the Pima County Public Defenders is the Pima County Public Defender's Office is ordered to represent you. And otherwise, I don't have anything further for you, Mr. Marchand. Unless council has anything further for the court, you're excused.
Thank you. What's gonna-
Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
Joe Alex Marty.
All right, Mr. Marty, this time set for your initial appearance. I have you here, sir, for several charges relating to trafficking and stolen property, theft, fraud schemes and artifices, and fraudulent schemes and practices. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. I believe is Andrew Ross? on the line?
Yes, Your Honor, Andrew Roth on behalf of Mr. Marty.
All right, Mr. Ross has entered a notice of appearance on behalf of you, Mr. Marty. A review the interim complaint, including a recommendation by the Saudi Police Department that a $20,000 bond be issued. Also reviewed pretrial services, a report noting a 2 and a 3 respectively on the NCA FTA scales. Noted that there's also a single record of a felony offense from 2010. State's position on conditions of release for Mr. Marti.
Your Honor, the state is recommending a bond of $10,000. The state's recommendation is based on the nature of the offense, given the multiple years of conduct that was shown in the interim complaint, as well as the position of trust that the defendant held at the time that these offenses were committed. So given all that information, the state is recommending that bond.
Ms. Ross.
Your Honor, Mr. Marty is a lifelong Tucson resident. The prior conviction is 15 years old. This incident was charged back in January 2025, January 17th, I believe. Mr. Marty was released to pretrial services that same day. He complied with all conditions. The county attorney's office dismissed the case, and this is now being rebrought. There is substantively, the case is no different now than it was 2 months ago when Mr. Marty was released on his own recognizance to the supervision of pretrial services. There's no need for that bond. He's not a flight risk. If he was going to flee, he would have fled 2 months ago after he was released. His house was searched. A warrant was served at his house a couple of weeks ago. He brought me the warrant afterwards. He's retained our office to represent him. He looks forward to fighting these charges. Your Honor, I know you just released the co-defendant shortly ago. I realize the cases are linked and the defendants are different, but these are nonviolent offenses, and everything here weighs in favor of release. He's not a flight risk. He's not a danger to the community.
Thank you. And Mr. Marty, I am going to release you to pretrial services and order that you submit any monitor and treatment as they direct. You are further orders not to have any alleged contact with the victims or to visit any of the incident locations in this case. I'm going to set a preliminary for April the 15th at 1:30 in the afternoon at the Justice Court. So when you are released, please make contact with your attorneys immediately and be sure to be present for your hearing. Otherwise, another warrant could issue for your arrest. Or I'm sorry, a warrant could issue for your arrest. That's all I have for you, sir. You're excused.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. May I be excused?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
Arnoldo Ricardo Payanes.
All right, Mr. Bayanis, this is the time set for your initial appearance. You're here on felony charges related to weapons misconduct, prohibited possessor. To remind you, sir, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. You have a right to an attorney, and I'm appointing the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you. The attorney seated to your left is going to represent you for purposes of this initial appearance. Please direct any questions you have to your attorney before saying anything out loud. You understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Viewed the pretrial services, I'm sorry, the preliminary, interim complaint, as well as the pretrial services workup. Note that the defendant was rated as a 3 and 3 on the NCA FTA scales respectively. And did note that there was mention of employment and local ties, as well as a domestic violence aggravated harassment offense from September of 2024. It has been disposed of, and the defendant is currently on probation for that offense. So note that there is an adult probation hold in this case. The state's position on conditions of release.
Your Honor, the state's recommending a $10,000 bond, given the probation hold that the court mentioned, as well as the nature of the prior offense and the fact that the defendant was in possession of a firearm while knowingly going to his probation officer's office.
Okay. And defense.
You're pointing out that he is 32. He is not really, as the court noted. The scales, he is a lifelong resident, but he only is in support. And it was not a significant control. It appears from the interim complaint that he was compliant with the search for probation, and it's not used in the commission of another offense. Given the probation hold, he obviously won't be able to be released. So given that, given all the information provided to the court, given that he was assessed at a level 2, that the event itself was non-violent, we are asking for a local condition.
Mr. Johnson, impose a $5,000 cash secured bond and impose any standard conditions of release to include, most importantly, not possessing any firearms, and any firearms you do already possess, that you surrender those to law enforcement immediately. I'm going to impose that bond so that you receive time credit for this offense in the event that you are found guilty or plead guilty to it. Because of your adult probation hold, you're not going to be released in any case. I'm going to set this matter for a preliminary hearing on April the 7th at 1:30 in the afternoon at the Pima County Justice Court. So, sir, if you are released from your probation hold and do post bond, please make sure and keep contact with adult probation as well as your attorney, and make sure you're at your hearing on the 7th. Otherwise, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Definitely.
Okay, I think we're good, John.
Okay. Well, if there's anything else, you're excused.
Right. You will be my defender for next time.
No, right.
Mr. Roman.
Palanes. No, he's there. Robert. Ready?
Good evening, sir. Can I please have your full name?
Sean Roman.
All right. This time set for your initial appearance. I have you here on 3 different matters. The first is a felony Offense of arson of an occupied structure and endangerment, alleged to have occurred, today. You have the right to remain silent, sir. Anything you say can and will be held against you. You have the right to an attorney, and I'm appointing the Pima County Legal Defender's Office to represent you. The attorney seated to your left is going to be representing you for purposes of this hearing. So if you have any questions or concerns, please address them to your attorney before saying anything out loud. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, I've reviewed the interim complaint as well as pretrial services workup for Mr. Roman, noting that he is a 6 and 6 on the NCA and FDA scales. And that he does have, I believe, at least 4 felony offenses dating from at least 1996 through 2020. What's the state's position on conditions of release?
Your Honor, the state is recommending $100,000 bond. Along with what the court just mentioned, the state is, well, the facts in the interim complaint are extremely disturbing given the mobility of the victim and all of the different efforts that were made to set a fire and create harm and more than likely death for the victim. So given that, the state is recommending $100,000 bond.
Vince?
To do with the seriousness of the charges, so I have a hard time with probable cause and the allegations. Identification appears to be based on some items missing, but Mr. Roman was with his father. The fact that those items were found on him does not necessarily mean that he created the fire, intentionally started a fire, purposely tried to endanger his father. I really have concerns with the clause here. I don't know that identification has been established. For those reasons, I am asking for release. However, if the court, I suppose, finds probable cause here, we are asking for low bond. He is 46 and his crimes are a bit older.
Thank you. I did find probable cause in this matter, and I'm going to impose a bond of $100,000 cash secured and order pretrial services supervision if Mr. Roman is able to post the bond. If a bond is posted, standard conditions will apply to include any monitoring or treatment by pretrial services as directed, as well as no contact of any kind with the victim, to include returning to the incident location. I'm going to set a preliminary hearing date for April the 7th at 1:30 in the afternoon in the Pima County Justice Court. So as far as the felony is concerned, I am going to impose that bond. You will be held, and your hearing will occur on the 7th. If not, please contact your attorney to make arrangements for the additional services you may need. On the Justice Court matter, this is out of Saudita Municipal Court. I believe this is a warrant for your arrest issued by Judge Maria Aviles for an offense alleged to have occurred, 2 different offenses rather, alleged to have occurred on October the 31st at 2023. I'm going to release you on both those matters and schedule a hearing for you in the Saudita Municipal Court on April the 22nd at 8:30 in the morning. Obviously, if you are in custody, you may be transported down or seen via video. If you do post bond, standard conditions of release are going to apply to not have any contact with the alleged victim or returning to the incident locations noted in the citation of the police reports. And then lastly, have a shoplifting charge out of the Tucson City Court. I don't believe you've been seen on this one before, so this will also be the time for your arraignment. To remind you, sir, again, you do have the right to remain silent. You are presumed innocent until proven guilty. You do have a right to an attorney. And in this case, I'm going to appoint the Tucson City Public Defender's Office to represent you and set a hearing date for you on March 16th at 9 a.m. in front of the judge in courtroom 6. If you fail to meet that hearing, a warrant could issue for your arrest and a trial could proceed in your absence, in which case you could be found guilty in absentia. And if you're found guilty and are not able to be sentenced within 90 days due to your own absence, you may lose the right to an appeal. Again, on this case, I'm going to release you and set the hearing for May 16th. Standard conditions of release will apply to include not having any contact with the victim or returning to the incident location. And with that, that is all I have for you. Sir, you're excused.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Can you please have your full name? Mr. Urietes, is the time set for your initial appearance? Reminder, sir, you do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you. I have you here on, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matters. 1 felony and 5 misdemeanors. On the felony matter, this is charges of promoting person contraband, alleged to have occurred today. You do have a right to an attorney. I am appointing the Pima County Public Defender's Office to represent you, and the attorney seated to your left is representing you for purposes of this hearing. So if you have any questions or concerns, please ask your attorney before saying anything out loud. You understand?
Yes.
All right. Read the interim complaint for this matter, as well as pretrial services workup for Mr. Uriete. Don't note any holds, though he has a 6 out of 6 on the NCA FTA scales. Also note that there is at least 2 felony offenses, 1 from 2014, 1 from 2017. This is the state's recommendation on conditions of release.
The state is recommending a $5,000 bond given the high pretrial services scores as well as the criminal history.
All right, thank you. Defense?
Your Honor, I was a bit confused by the interim complaint. It appears that he's being charged under section 132505A1, meaning that he knowingly took contraband into a correctional facility and really found it in a correctional facility. I don't know that there was probable cause for this. It appears that he's looked and during a search conducted, he is observed removing a piece of aluminum foil. It appears that another search was conducted, and it just says drug paraphernalia was found during my searches, and that he was charged for that possession, but that charge was unrelated to the contraband found within PCADC. I don't know that enough to say that he was going to bring in contraband. Someone is cited removing the contraband as a big booked in, if that makes sense. So for those reasons, I've asked for release on this charge.
Well, I think I read the facts a little bit differently, Counselor. I did find probable cause, but I am going to release him to pretrial services and set the matter for a preliminary hearing on April 15th at 1:30 in the afternoon. Standard conditions of release are going to apply to Mr. Urieta to include that you submit any monitoring or treatment as ordered or directed rather by pretrial services.
Yes, sir.
All right. So that takes care of your felony matter. Your misdemeanor matter, the first misdemeanor matter. This is as a result of a warrant issued for your arrest by Judge Erica Cornejo. I am going to quash that warrant, release you to pretrial services. and set a hearing for you on the 7th of April at 8:30 in the morning. I'm sorry, yeah, at 8:30 in the morning in front of Judge Victoria Steele. And I'm likewise going to set all of those cases for the same date and time. So, sir, you're going to be released from jail tonight. Please make sure and contact your attorney on, at least on the felony case, and keep in contact with them as the case unfolds. If dates change from that April 15th, please make sure and stay in contact so you're not missing any necessary court dates. Otherwise, sir, you're going to be released. All the warrants are going to be quashed, and just make sure when you do get released, you are keeping in touch with your attorney and with the courts to make sure you're not finding yourself in jail again. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. You're excused, sir.
Your Honor, please will send updated to the city court or justice court.
That's in justice court. Oh, I'm sorry. There is one more matter. That was the fifth one. And this is out of Tucson City Court. And this relates to charges of theft and possession of drug paraphernalia alleged to have occurred on November 26th, 2024. Warrant was issued, so I will quash that warrant, release you on that matter, and set you for a hearing in the Tucson City Court in front of Judge Verena on April 22nd, 2025 at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Right, so you got a lot of court dates, sir. You're going to be getting a lot of paperwork. Just make sure and keep everything straight. Make sure you are attending all court hearings or communicating with court or your attorney so that you don't find yourself back in jail. Understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. That's all I have for you, sir. You're excused.